Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. It's about time. I'm thinking that I can't avoid this at this any point. It's about time that I talked about race and racism. And this is not a topic I like. It's a topic I would choose not to address, but it is so much in the media today, and it is so much dividing the country that I live in, the United States here, that I believe it's worth talking about. And this falls into one of the category. I did this video on not talking about politics and religion and when it's your opinion, right? And this falls into the category of something that I think I'm only talking about it because I believe it can benefit you, and I believe it can benefit all of us, and I believe that this message is important. I believe there's a lot of wasted energy and anger and frustration, emotional energy and productivity being lost because of this issue. It's actually causing me emotional strain and anger. And honestly, it's wasting my time, and we shouldn't be wasting our time with this. First of all, we're all being played by the media. It's important to understand this and know this, that this type of media, this racial division, does sell news, and it does get views, and it does get people fired up, and that's what the media's interest is in this. So we're all goaded into this. And this is important. Again, I am addressing this from the perspective of reality. There's a lot of people that are going to tell you one thing or the other. I'm not taking sides in this because there is not a side. There's humanity is a side, okay? And we need to see reality clearly. So I will admit that I am being manipulated by the media, as much as I think that I'm not, and you are too, okay? Unless you're got your head in a hole somewhere. But even if you did, the people that you're interacting with are manipulated by the media, and you're hearing from them. So it's impossible to really grasp the details, right? And I'll say this because there's a lot of atrocities that happen every single day. If you wanted to find 5-year-olds that were murdered every single day, or little kids that were murdered every single day, you could go and you could find a story every single day. That's how I don't want to say how fucked up this world is. I want to say that's how large the world is, because so when you see specific things targeted and pulled out by media, I want you to understand that is not representative of the general world, right? Even when you see things done by terrorists, right? When you see ISIS and all of this stuff, it is not what is going on everywhere. The world is not as dangerous as it appears. So now let's get into the actual racial issue here. So here's the thing, another reality. We are all racist, okay? I don't care who you are, right? You are racist. I am racist. You are racist. I'm sorry that a lot of you are going to say, oh, I can't believe that you would say that. But it's true. You have to understand, if you want to change reality, right? I say this all the time. I did this video on looking in the mirror, which you could check out here. If you want to change reality, you have to recognize reality. And it's a sad truth that we all have some degree of racism. It's not necessarily harmful. What makes it harmful is when we act on that and we use that bias, right? Because racism is essentially a stereotypical bias, right? We all have this. We assess situations. Our brain, we can't control this, right? Our brain automatically takes in information, filters it, comes up with pattern matching, and then decides what stereotypes and biases that we're going to have, right? We can start to overcome some of those, but some of those are going to be automatic and instinctual, and to some degree, racism, and it's partially due to society, to media, right? Our exposure to it causes us to all be, to some degree, racist. If you're white, you're some degree racist. If you're black, and you're saying that white people are racist, that's a racist statement as well, right? We're all kind of have this, right? Now, some people act on this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting you and I in the same classification as someone who outwardly, has KKK and, goes and hangs people from the tree because they're a different race. But racism has existed throughout the world, throughout history. It will probably always exist to some degree. It will exist in different forms. Now, studying history and studying different cultures, and some of you who are from different countries can confirm this, that there is racism in China. There's racism in India, for example, and they are very different forms of racism than what we see here in the US, right? So in China, apparently, you can't buy sunscreen that doesn't have bleach in it. Same thing in India. There's racism against darker Indians and lighter Indians. If you look at Indian TV, right, there's even blatant commercials that are so blatantly racist, but that's sort of, I guess it's acceptable there, but it is racism, right? And when you look at Jamaica, right? Jamaica had a huge amount of racism, and I'll tell you why, is because they had it was racism of black families against black families based on the lighter color of their skin. If you want a good account of that, listen to or read any of Malcolm Gladwell's books. He's from Jamaica, and it was because of this, the mixing. And in even within families, the lighter skinned person was considered to be better, right? So there's that. And then in Europe, right, obviously there is racism, and racism there, depending on the country, is more so against Spanish and Turks, and or Middle Eastern, and there's different groups, right, that end up being targets of where the racism happened, right, and it happens on both sides, right? Usually people go into camps and they associate with their own, or what they perceive as their own, and both sides are usually racist. In the history of the United States, we've had this issue, right? There's so many different varieties of it, right? Think about in New York City, in the Irish immigration, right? And think about what happened there, or even in the World War, right? In Japanese, right? Racism. So what I'm saying is, I just want you to understand that we are all racist to some degree, but we have to face that reality. Now, what we act on is that's what matters, right? And how we treat people. We have bias, right? And then we get to decide what we do. Now, those biases are going to influence our first decisions and our thoughts. But when we give someone the benefit of the doubt, and we don't allow our bias to control our actions and to make our mouth spew things it shouldn't, or post things on Facebook that it shouldn't, right? Then we are exercising restraint, which is important. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about here is a difference, I'm sorry if you will not classify yourself as racist to some degree. You need to honestly look in the mirror and realize that it's everyone, right? It's everyone to some degree. It might even be you might think it's a small amount, but I think if you look closely, you'll find it, right? And I'm being honest with you in telling you that doesn't preclude me. I am definitely in that group, right? So we all are. And by the way, what race am I? Guess. I don't know. Like, it's so weird when people say, John, well, you got white privilege. Last time I checked in the mirror, I don't exactly look white. I mean, yeah, I would identify as a Caucasian male, but come on now. But regardless, that's a segue into my next point, which is this. This is a critical matter here. As long as we define race, we're going to have racism. That's it, right? So it's not, again, establishing the fact that we're all racist. Okay, that's fair. What causes a problem, what causes division, is division. So the people that are responsible for division are the people that call out the factor of race. Now this is getting into my personal, opinion, but I believe that if we stop using race, if we stop putting race on job applications and birth certificates and all of that stuff, and we stop using this, we have species, human, Homo sapien, that will fix more of the issue. And plus, how can you even identify? We are such a mixed group of individuals at this point, a worldwide community, that it is impossible. You don't even know. I mean, again, look at me, right? What race am I? Okay, if you want to know, my dad is Turkish. He was born in Istanbul, but guess what? His father was from Azerbaijan. So is he even Turkish, right? But my grandmother was from Turkey, so maybe I'm 1/4 Azerbaijan. But where did that family come from? Were they there for a long time? And countries and civilizations changed over. On my mom's side, my mom is quote Italian, but she was born in the U.S. My grandmother was born in Italy, and at least I believe so. And my grandfather on that side, German. So this is, kind of an odd combination, right? That I don't really have a race, right? Like you might say, oh well, you're white then. Because why, right? You see what I'm saying here? And there's so many of us that are like that. And when we go back in history and go back in time, we find that there's some pure lineages, but no lineage is really pure, because where did it all come from? We all came from, essentially the same seed, if that makes sense to you. So I don't know. I don't want to get caught up in the whole Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, all of this thing. I would rather see us not pay attention to the word race. And yes, I know that there is discrimination, and I know that there's racism. I'm acknowledging it by saying that we are all racist to some degree. But I'm saying that the solution to that problem is not to call it out, because when you call it out, right now, Martin Luther King, and all this, blatantly laws and within our government structure, blatant racism, yes, that has to be called out and eliminated. That's a good reason to march. That's a good reason to fight and say this is not fair and this is legislated not fair. And even though don't really associate with the Pride movement, I understand that same ideology makes sense in that community. So that's fair enough, right? But still, what I'm saying here is that when you call it out, okay, you become part of the issue of the problem in general, because and it's not your fault necessarily, it's not your intent, right? Your intent is to bring awareness to a thing, but what ends up happening is you polarize people, and I've talked about polarizing being a good thing, but this is a negative polarization, because what you do is you reinforce their bias and stereotype, and I'll tell you what happens, quote, white person sees Black Lives Matter thing and hears some spout about that, and they say, oh, they don't outwardly express racism, but inwardly they think, oh, those stupid black idiots, they posting on Black Lives Matter, they're like a terrorist group, blah, blah, right? They get angered, and it actually causes them to become more polarized, more pushed in the direction of the racism that they already have, right? Which is fine, and we acknowledge that, right? And then on the other side, when a white person posts, all lives matter, or blue lives matter, or something like that, right? Then there's some black guy sitting there on Twitter, and he's like, what those white guys, they don't understand, blah, 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 right? And he's pissed off, and he's a little bit more racist against white people, right? Because he feels like they all think that, right? Because this is the brain. The brain recognizes patterns, right? This is not people are not intentionally doing this. Mostly people that are intentionally being racist, them. They're putting on, they are blatantly offensive, and you know them. It's the unintentional people that are doing this because they're believing in their cause. They are trying to stop racism, but by trying to stop it, they're causing more of it. So hopefully I haven't done that with this video, because I'm trying to be genuinely honest with you and not taking side. I don't care about what hashtag is trending on Twitter. What I care about is dealing with reality. And we cannot effectively deal with reality by putting our heads in the sand. And we cannot deal with the issue of racism in this country by, first of all, saying I'm not racist, therefore nobody should be racist, and lying, right? We have to say, no. If you want someone to understand and trust you, you have to say, look, yes, I understand, I am racist to some degree. It's not intentional, but it is there, and we all have that. And I don't want to support that any further, right? I want to change that. And the way that I do that as best as I can is to not even call attention to race at all. Not to let it infiltrate my mind, not to classify people based on race, to just say this is a person here, right? Now, my brain is going to automatically do some of that, but as much as I don't bring that into my consciousness in dealing with people, and if you've dealt with me, I surely hope sincerely that you have seen that I don't care who you are. I honestly don't. I don't even care if you are not even educated, right? Like, I'm still gonna treat you pretty much the same because I try not to label, I try not to classify. I don't like putting people in a box, right? In general, not just race, in anything, because I believe people are bigger than that. I believe that when you do that, when you go into that line of thinking, it creates division, it creates class systems, it creates that divisive force, and that's the issue, you know. And let's be realistic. One, you know, and then I'll wrap this up here, but we are not going to solve this issue, but we can deal with this issue, right? And if you want to help to deal with this issue, don't start a war in the comments below. Instead, just choose in your own way, as much as possible, not to spread stuff that you know is going to cause people to become more polarized and divided on race, okay? And not to in your own life, try not to use that classification. Try not to classify people based on race, because you don't even know. Like I said, who's to say that this black guy that's 75% black but 25% white and 25%, or you know what I mean, in mixed, what are you going to classify this person? It just doesn't even make sense anyway, right? To use these classifications, because we do have a lot of, majority of people today are mixed, so we have to, like, people identify with a race, and if you're identifying with a race, that's a problem as well, right? Because when you identify with that, you're projecting onto yourself. You understand what I mean when I say you're projecting? You are taking what the society says about that particular classification of people, and you are absorbing that, and whether you are doing this at a conscious level or not, you're believing it. That's why I fail to limit. I do not call myself anything. I don't say I'm white, I don't say I'm Turkish, I don't say I'm Italian, I don't say I'm German, right? Because I don't want any of that. I want to be me, right? And you should want to be you, and you should let people be who they are, not try to put them into a box, right? And you should at the same time recognize that your brain will do it, but you can fight against that. But if you cannot acknowledge it, if you are so stubborn, so ignorant, so pig-headed that you can't acknowledge that you actually are racist to some degree, well, what can I say about that? Like, you're not going to be able to change reality. You're not going to be able to fix a problem. You're going to be ignorant and be racist, and you're probably going to become more so, because ignorance breeds ignorance, right? Only by facing reality can we change reality. And you know, I hope that if you've watched this channel, that you've learned that. And I know, you know, making this video, a lot of you are going to unsubscribe. That's cool. I'm okay with that, right? You know, this is, I don't make videos in order to be popular, okay? I make videos because I want to help you. And I feel like I haven't breached this issue, and there's a reason why. Because I felt like everything I've had to say up to this point would not really be helpful to you. But with the state that I believe that the country is in now, when I say the country, I say the United States, because that's where I'm from, I believe that understanding this and realizing this could help you. Right? I feel like it could help you to understand. If you can understand that person on the other side of Twitter putting in the hashtag that you don't like, and you can understand that you're a little bit racist and they're a little bit racist, and that they think they're doing good, and when you're replying and responding, it's that you think you're doing good. If you can understand that, and understand that nobody wants to be racist, at least most people don't, then you can understand that spreading that stuff doesn't help. You think it does, they think it does, it just doesn't. And so that's it. If you want to help, like I said, stop classifying by race, start living your life, start, you know, recognizing reality, and you know, just don't spread a message of hate. Everything that you put out in this world, spread a message of love. Spread a message of that you care, right? Where you don't have to agree with everyone. You can have different political opinions. You can have different ideologies. But why? Why do you spread the message that you do? Is it because you have to prove that you're right? Is it because you have to take down the infidels, right? Is it because you have to fight your war? Or is it because you actually care about helping and changing people's lives for the better? That's all I have to say about this subject. Go ahead and bring on the flames, baby. I am ready for it. So anyway, if you like this video and you haven't unsubscribed so far, go ahead and subscribe. And I probably won't be talking about this topic again, but I do talk about a lot of other interesting topics that you might find valuable if you're a programmer or you're not a programmer, because I talk about life here. So anyway, I will talk to you next time, and take care. Stay safe.